We are 14 weeks into fantasy hockey, and we're at the point of the season where you have to make a decision. Are you going forward to try and win your championship, or are you going to sell out? Now, hopefully, most of you guys are trying to go for it right now, or just trying to find a spot in the playoffs. Now, week 22 to 24 is typically the playoff time for fantasy hockey, so I've gone through the schedule, I've done the work for you, and I've picked out a group of players that you could A, buy low on, and B, have very strong playoff schedules. So, guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Getting us started in this video, we have Nikolaj Ehlers of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, he doesn't have the strongest playoff schedule, but I do think he's very good value right now in the season that can help sustain you for the next 8 weeks going into playoffs. So for the Winnipeg Jets right now, we know how good they've been this season. They had that historic start, and their goals for and their power play has been phenomenal this season. They rank 3rd in the league for goals per 60, and they're 1st in the league for power play goals per 60. So on a 60-minute basis, they're one of the best offensive, if not the best offensive team in the league. And for Ehlers right now, he's likely the cheapest player you can get on that top power play unit. And like we've seen with the Edmonton Oilers in the past, you want exposure to any of the 5 players that you can get your hands on the best power play in the league. Now, he has a solidified top 6 power play 1 role. And right now, I wouldn't say he's necessarily a buy low, but I do think that because he did miss 9 games, that you could, or fantasy managers will look and say, you know what, he's rank 100, he's rank 120 right now. I can get rid of him, and this is a good opportunity for you to buy in on a guy that should finish as a top 75 player this season. Now, he's on the best point pace of his career, 0.38 goals per game, 0.66 assists per game, and 1.03 points per game. The minutes since returning from injury are beginning to scale up. Now, he's averaging about 15 minutes, 40 seconds time on ice right now, but what we've seen since he's returned back from injury is well over 18 minutes per night. I do think for the rest of the season, Ehlers possesses top 50 to 75 upside. I just want to see that shot rate go back up to 10 plus shots per 60 per game, like you can see on screen, which it was historically over the last 3 seasons. There's a lot to like here from Ehlers, and this is a guy I would definitely look to buy into right now. Speaking of players that are on very good teams, you know how much I tout the Carolina Hurricanes, and we have Seth Jarvis, who has been, again, similar to Ehlers. He's not necessarily a buy low, but I do think you can get very good value out of him for the rest of the season. He's just 82% rostered across leagues right now, which is very surprising for me, given he's been a very solid producer for the entire season. He's sitting around rank 90 to 110, similar to Ehlers. I do think he has top 50 to 75 upside for the rest of the season. He's playing top line, he's playing in top power play on a top 3 team in the league. Sebastian Aho has been extremely good this season, and him and Jarvis have a dynamic duo up front for the Carolina Hurricanes, and they like to drive the offense for this team. Now, similar to Ehlers, he missed 8 games due to injury, which may impact his current value right now. And when fantasy managers look at him, maybe if they're not the most knowledgeable fantasy managers and they're looking to make trades to offload some players from their team, this is a very good target for you. Now, he does have a career high shot rate right now at 8.4 shots per 60, which is tied his 2022-2023 season, and his hits pace is also at the highest of his career. Right now, he's currently on pace for 220 shots, 130 hits on an 82-game schedule, which is very good for his floor, and we want to look at players that have very solid floors, because if Jarvis does not get lucky, doesn't get those assists, doesn't get those goals, he's still putting up 3 shots and 3 hits per night, which just adds to his overall value. For me, he checks all of the boxes. He's on a really good team, really good line mates, he has really good skill, and his deployment is even better. So a lot to like here from Seth Jarvis. You're getting a dual position player in center, right wing, and there's a lot to like here from Seth Jarvis for the rest of the season. Okay, so let's jump into the guys with some of the juiciest playoff schedules that you can buy low on right now. And starting us off with one of my favorite players in the NHL, Matt Boldy of the Minnesota Wild. So for me, we did a little analysis. It looks like the Minnesota Wild does have the strongest playoff schedule going into the season. So 11 games, 6 games on off nights, which means you're going to be able to maximize those games played. And that's going to be huge. You don't want to go into fantasy having a deficit in games played where your opponent has 52 and you have 43 games played. Then you're going into a down 9 games just to start the week. So Boldy has been good, not great, and that means it's a very good time for you to buy into him. He's currently at the high. He currently is rank 14 for shot rate right now, and his minutes 1941 per night is the highest of his career plus 50 seconds from 2023, where he broke out to have one of the best seasons of his career. Now, when Kaprizov does return back to the lineup, this lineup is going to be very, very scary. We know how good he was when he was healthy. He's been out for the last couple of games, but he's nearing a return, hopefully by the end of this week or early next week. And for Boldy here, as you can see, his shot rate, 10.3 shots per 60, the highest shot rate of his career, yet the goals per 60 are the lowest in the last 4 seasons. So for Boldy, the luck is eventually going to turn around. I did see his 14 goals on the season with an expected goals of 16. So eventually that's going to come back to normal. I do think he has top 30 to 40 upside for the rest of the season, mixed in with one of the strongest playoff schedules right now. I do think Boldy could be one of the best players to trade for going into the fantasy playoffs 8 weeks from today. Now, another player that fantasy managers are probably wanting to ship off, Joel Eriksson A of the Minnesota Wild. Now, more so than Boldy, because they probably give up a lot of draft capital to draft Joel Eriksson A, and they're just not happy with the outcome this season. But if you've been following fantasy for the last couple of years, you know how good Joel Eriksson A has been. He has been a league winner in 2022. He was a league winner in 2023, and the stats are all down this season for Joel Eriksson A. Now, it's been an injury-plagued season for him, which means it's a pretty good time for you to buy. He's only played 26 games this season. He's had 3 different injuries. He broke his nose, he had a lower body injury, and then was week to week again with another lower body injury. But if he can stay healthy like we've seen in the past, you know the upside is there. The upside's huge for Joel Eriksson A, a guy that put up 0.71 blocks per game, 2.19 hits per game, and 3.47 shots per game last season, while almost at a point per game pace. Now he's still skating huge minutes, 19-18 per night, top 6, power play 1. Now he's currently on the second line. They have Marco Rossi on the top line. Kaprizov has not been back to the lineup, so we don't know what we're going to see when he does return. Is he going to play with Joel Eriksson A, or is he going to go on that top line with Boldy and Rossi? Regardless, this power play, especially when Kaprizov's healthy, is very strong. We know Joel Eriksson A is one of the best peripheral coverage forwards in the entire league. Between him, Vincent Trocheck, Brady Tkachuk, all very good peripheral coverage forwards. Again, when Kaprizov returns back to this lineup, they're going to get a huge boost, and Joel Eriksson A should be a huge benefactor of this. Strong playoff schedule, 11 games, 6 games on the off nights. A lot to like here from Joel Eriksson A. Now, looking at other playoff schedules, the Chicago Blackhawks have one of the best playoff schedules, but there's not many players from that team that I'm really interested in. Again, Connor Bedard, he just has kind of a big name, and it's going to be difficult to trade for him. If you're in keeper leagues, no one's really going to look to move him. But Seth Jones seems like a very good target to be your defenseman 3 or defenseman 4 going into playoffs. Now, they have a top 3 fantasy schedule for playoffs, in my opinion. 10 games, 5 games on off nights, so a lot to love there. And for Seth Jones, we know he's a minute-munching defenseman. He plays 25 minutes per night, the 7th highest time on ice in the NHL right now, and he has pretty solid peripheral coverage. Now, the thing with Jones, like I said, he's not the most flashy defenseman. He's not going to be your defenseman 1, but he's a solid defenseman 3 or 4 to help cover categories throughout the week. 0.54 points per game, 2.04 shots per game, almost 2 blocks per game, and just over a hit per game. Very good peripheral coverage. The points are there. He's on the top power play unit. He plays the top pair. There's no competition. When he was injured, it was Alex Vlasic playing those big minutes in place of Seth Jones. But when Seth Jones is healthy, he's their guy. He's on this big contract in Chicago right now that a lot of people say is one of the most overpaid contracts, similar to Darnell Nurse. But he's a lock to be a power play 1, pair 1 guy. He's a very, very cheap value for a guy that has A, very good playoff schedule, B, has a very solid floor, plays a lot of good minutes, and C, can be just a solid number 3, number 4 defenseman for your fantasy team. He's not going to be a make or break guy for you, and maybe that's why fantasy managers will be quick to trade him away. But if he's available in your free agency, guy you definitely want to be adding, good playoff schedule. But if you can look to trade for him, you don't really have to give up a lot of assets to acquire him, and then you can take advantage of his 10 games and 5 games on the off nights for the 3 weeks of playoffs. Hopefully he's able to help boost your team into fantasy playoffs. Now, I was looking across the league for goaltenders to trade for, and I've been dealing with a lot of managers that are struggling with goaltending, myself included. Now, if you went the 0G strategy, or you've had to deal with some injuries, Igor Shesterkin's been a big one, Jeremy Swayman's been struggling. If you drafted Georgiev early, I can just go down the list of goaltenders that have been struggling to start the season off so far. And with Jordan Binnington, strong playoff schedule. He has 10 games. He's ranked like 150 to 200 across leagues right now. This is a guy you're going to get that has a very good start percentage at 67% of the starts so far. Now, the numbers have been okay, then maybe that's why you're able to trade for him. So one thing I want to caution with Binnington, and I'm very curious to what other people think, he seems to be the starting goalie for Team Canada at the Four Nations. Now, this could be a good thing because the competition is going to be great. It's going to be a playoff style hockey, but it's going to be an extra maybe 5 to 6 games for Jordan Binnington here, which may hurt his value in the long term, but we'll see. I think just overall right now, he's ranked 150 to 200 across leagues, and you can see on the stats on the screen. I just wanted to look into his numbers to see how does he perform in the second half of the season. Now, February, a 915 save percentage. March, a 902 save percentage. April, a 917 save percentage. So what it looks like here is from February to April, Binnington plays the best hockey of his career. So this could be a very good time to pick up a goaltender who's typically a strong second half performer. And with the struggling goaltenders right now, this could be a very good goalie 2 option for your fantasy leagues. Now, I don't think he's going to be a goalie 1 for the rest of the season, but still the volume's going to be there. He plays a lot of games. The St. Louis Blues give up a lot of shots. Now, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. I don't know how competitive they will be for the rest of the season. But with Robert Thomas healthy now, and with Falk hopefully coming back in the coming weeks, the St. Louis Blues team could be a little bit better for the second half. But my eyes are on Jordan Binnington and his second half numbers that have proven to be very solid. So this is a guy you can go and get very cheap value to hopefully have a very strong playoffs for you, and just overall a very solid rest of the season. That will do it for the trade targets video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.